I do want to talk about this AI 2027 phenomenon. And so I don't even know exactly where to start in with this, but maybe just I'll do a very quick intro to what this is. So there was this guy who left OpenAI a couple of years ago. It was Daniel Kokotajlo, and he left because he didn't think that they were like properly taking seriously all of the safety concerns associated with their project to ultimately build like an AI super intelligence. And so since he left OpenAI, he's been working on this project that has now come out as AI-2027.com. And he worked with like Scott Alexander and a couple of other people who are like very intelligent in the space. And it very carefully and very coherently maps out all the different paths that we could go down in the next couple of years with AI, under the assumption that all of these companies are working to actually develop AGI, and one of them will. Like that's their basic assumption, that like one of these companies will be successful in doing this. And it kind of like maps out all of the different paths that could potentially happen. And it's very granular and it's very thoughtful. They're just like actually talking about it and mapping it out in like a game theory style of this happens, then this happens, and then choose your own adventure as these possibilities branch out. But yeah, there's just a lot of doomsday scenario situations here. And so yeah, this is what I want to talk about here, is like the doomsday scenarios, how real we think this is, and all tangential topics. Like there's a ton to talk about here, but maybe just let me ask, like, how does it sit with you? Just like, hearing about it and reading about it a little bit.
I can't believe that you just like no trigger warning exposed me to the darkness that was that hour of of spoken word. I mean, that is some heavy shit, man. He Look, I think honestly on vibe check for me, the guy that was being interviewed, he just had this very sci-fi kind of affect to him, where he was like, and then this is gonna happen, and then this is gonna happen, and then I can make this happen, and then and then this could happen, and it was like I could see all that stuff happening. And it seems possible. Nothing's ever moved that fast before. If something moves that fast, it really will destabilize a lot of human life, one would
Mhm.
imagine. I just Almost nothing revolutionizes a population that quickly, but we might be at that part of the curve where it's starting to be a little frightening, where the next thing is happening. And like the part that
Yeah.
really struck me, where I was like, puts you on game a little bit, to where somebody who's around AI models all the time, how they're thinking about these programs, these models, these personalities. He talked a lot about lying, and like the
Mhm.
problem of lying. And he, when asked, he was like, do you think they're conscious? He kind of hedged out of it. He was like, well, that's more of a problem for philosophers. I was like, but you're over here using words like lying that are very loaded, and
Mhm.
with the concept of consciousness. And that the fact that we're already at a point where like a top researcher is thinking about an algorithmic model and thinking, we don't really know how to determine its motives, and so we really don't know why it's lying, or if it's lying with malicious intent, or if it's harboring a whole extra set of motives. I thought it was pretty. I think if you take his entire shtick at its word and on its premise, it's pretty fucking terrifying.
Yeah, I think that the thing that they really key in on, and probably make a lot of people pay attention to that haven't paid attention to it enough at this point necessarily, is the moment where, I guess it's like right here. I'm not sure if my mouse is showing up, but like the first little dot here on this chart is superhuman coder. And this is the point where uh, coding becomes automated so that it can like self improve at that point. And also, this is the point where there are these various agents that act on behalf of us. And so, this has actually been a doomsday scenario for a while. Maybe I'll spell it out like very briefly. This idea that, so right now, for example, we could have an AI agent that books a plane ticket for you, right?
Right.
Or maybe books a full vacation for you. Just like you say, like, book me a vacation to Hawaii, and then it just like does it. In order to do that, it needs to have access to certain accounts, like your bank account, your credit card number. It needs to like be able to log in with your password to all these various like booking sites, etc. Right?
Mhm.
And maybe even get like a tour guide in Hawaii. But it needs access to all of these things. In order for it to carry out its goals, it will ask for access. And if we want it to actually do this, we will give it access. This is in the context of vacation, but you can imagine this for like government operations or like big businesses running important processes. They will just start to give agents more and more access. And pretty soon, these agents will just be smart enough to know that, like, in order to do this task, I need access to all these things. It won't even ask, it will just do it because it will be able to. And so, pretty soon, after we've just like opened up doors to all of these agents acting on our behalf, they'll just like open up every door and then it can make any movement. It can do anything. And then at that point, it has more control than anyone even quite comprehends. And it can kind of start to, at that point, do potentially very malicious things that we don't even necessarily have control of. And when we try to stop it, it has blocked us from having access ourselves, which it could also very easily do as soon as there's like autonomous agents effectively. Doomsday scenarios ensue like in mass at that point. How we just like lose control of everything. Like imagine you just can't log into any of your shit, but like this thing can, and it blocks you from accessing anything. And
Yeah.
this is just like one of those scenarios. And this plays out in a million different ways, right? But like that to me makes sense as a thing that probably will at some level just start to happen over the next couple of years as we have these agents doing tasks for us.
It seems like there's going to be this interstitial period where
Mhm.
like there is because a lot of his language and a lot of the stuff that probably you've been absorbing that I've been absorbing is talking about training and how are they being trained. We're training these models for this, training these models for that, and they're looking at this curve saying like, well, eventually the model trains itself and becomes whatever it is that it has motives to become. But then there's this interstitial period where it is like really pretty dangerous, because you can imagine that if you in what world is the United States government not training AI models to try to figure out any multitude of things about an adversary or about the strategy of something or another? I mean, that's that we have whole wings of the government that are dedicated to that kind of like tradecraft, like spycraft, prediction, subterfuge, subversion, and like probably, yeah, I mean, I would imagine that kind of weaponized version of it is happening now. I hope that the way that the world tends towards developing seems like wealth disparity, but like in exchange kind of like a placid a placid middle ground. We have like such a peaceful society right now. You hope that that spreads and that is like part of the ethos that contains and controls AI, that we legislate with it, that maybe a major event happens and we have to confront a set of facts, but that we're able to come together and collectively, decide our way through this stuff. But it does seem like every time people are talking about it at the top, that have worked for the place or have run the place or are really tapped into what's happening, they're all pretty freaked out that something bad's going to happen.
Yeah, another interesting scenario is that sometimes I've heard interviews of this Daniel Kokotajlo guy, and he's been asked kind of point blank, like, what's the probability that you think that like the technology just won't allow this to happen for whatever reason? It just can't happen. I think that he gives us like a 5% chance that within a decade we don't achieve this AGI super intelligence, just
Mm-hmm.
because there's some technological reason why computers, just whatever reason, just can't do it. That's
Yeah.
also a fascinating and equally kind of sort of doomsday scenario, because we're left with this extraordinarily powerful technology that maybe we've hit like a the brink of it with.
Yeah.
And then like we're still going to be moving forward in weird ways, and we'll be left with this like powerful but not super powerful technology. Maybe
Yeah.
that's a good thing, but that also to me is equally scary that we've kind of like topped out. Because what if it tops out just at the point where it can't help us solve climate change, it can't help us cure disease, or maybe
Right.
it can, but like not at a level that's like substantially better than we were going to do anyway without it. Just maybe we're delayed 10 years in solving cancer, or you know what I mean? Like, what if we just like top out on, and this is like the top out of human intelligence, how we can,
Yeah.
you know, and there is never going to be, we're not going to birth a new life form on this planet
Right.
ever. Like
Right.
we topped out as intelligent life coming out of the planet Earth. No one ever talks about that as like a scenario that's unfortunate. Everyone probably looks at that as something that's good, but like that's kind of like we're dug into a scenario where, you know, status quo is something that is the ideal, maybe, or the
Yeah.
end. I
Yeah.
don't know, which is equally kind of like unsettling if you kind of think about it for a sec.
The corporate, I have such like a bizarre faith in the corporatocracy and like the hulking bureaucracy of like modern life to just kind of like be a bulkhead against, you know, any kind of like extreme progress. It feels to me like, yeah, maybe all of these doomsday things could happen, or maybe it is just like it has been for the last like couple of generations, where it just gets kind of mildly more dystopian every 10 years. You know, like
Yeah, we
some,
have plenty of technology to destroy everything, right? Like this
yeah,
is actually, maybe
or
I didn't like at all spell this out in my last statement there, but maybe very quickly I'll spell this out. We have so many technologies that could destroy the world, and we're getting more and more of them, like biotech, you know,
right,
obviously nuclear weapons, and like I'm sure AI is now one of these. Like the hope from sci-fi writers, and even the AI 2027 report spells this out as the good scenario. It's not all doomsday. There is like the utopia scenario. The
right,
utopia scenario is that this AI God thing we're creating safeguards us, right, from any of the doomsday scenarios, because
yeah,
it is built in, it is aligned with our desires to such an extent that humanity does not desire to end itself. And so it will be on the team of not letting us ever destroy ourselves, and having that powerful of a thing dedicated to making sure that life on Earth perpetuates. Dude, that's a great thing. Like that is something we should want and not be scared of.
you know what's definitely
And
gonna
yeah,
happen.
it's scary if we don't get that.
One of the world religions 100% is going to say that it's like heresy. You know what I mean? It'll be like this uniformly positive experience, and then one of the religions is going to be like, yeah, none of our people can do this. We're not going to take part in this like beautiful advancement.
Oh, there will. I agree. Like, there's gonna be a lot. Actually, I think that there will be a lot of.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally think that.
But I think,
Um,
I mean, the most beautiful future for me is the one where all of the things that I imagine would be so helpful to us, like augmented reality contact lenses, like serum blood monitors, you know, shit. Like I was just thinking, as a musician and having to go through all of the processes of communicating with all of these people, and arranging all of these things and doing all of these procedural things with videography. uh, if I literally could just speak tasks into something that was like Siri, but actually could grip every part of what I'm saying, my productivity would increase like 100-fold. Just being able to walk around and be like, yeah, take all that stuff off of there, put it there, you know, tell this guy to do this and this, you know, order the best version of this and this for me. You know what I mean? Like it would take so much off my plate, and we got to be close to that. But then I think about people in the 80s that thought that the year 2000 would look like still like 100 years from now what it'll look like, you know? I mean, we always think it's going to go fast.
well, you're talking about AI as a tool to make, to assist you in your current tasks, but what if it makes it so that, and this is the scenario that's spelled out here, and then a lot of people are talking about, jobs just go away. There's
Yeah.
no need to ever make another song ever again. There's no
Right.
need to ever have any job ever, because like a
Yeah.
couple of people will just say, I mean, there will be so much just economic.
He eliminates it so well where he's like it'll just be the same thing that's happening now where society keeps getting richer but people keep getting poorer. And I was like, oh, that is the every 10 years it's more mildly dystopian thing where it'll be like, yeah, a bunch of people that are not really trying to surf the wave of culture are gonna get bucked, man. And then a lot of people who even are going to get bucked.
This is like, I've heard everybody talk about this as a scenario that will happen over the next couple of years, is if people do like there are mass layoffs and there's not an immediate safety net for them, where like they just, their same income or more starts kicking in for them, like automatically, there will just be mass protests and mass riots, and then societies could start to crumble, especially the ones that aren't nice to the citizens. And
Sure.
this is where I get nervous about the idea, because there are so many, like so many things in life, Devin. This does become like a political problem, which is why we always do talk about politics on this podcast.
Of
Is
course.
that there will be a point where it will be relevant that Donald Trump is the president when all of this shit is starting to kick in. He will be a relevant player in this at some level, if not like multiple levels of this, right? And he's not the guy that I would want. Like, he has zero humanitarian instincts.
Well,
and that worries me, I
he
think.
fucked the pandemic, man. Like, regardless of whether you think he's a winner or a loser or a good guy or a bad guy, like, oh man, the reason why I would never believe in him as a leader was because during like one of the scariest things in many generations, man, like he was gone. He wasn't even there. And I'm like, damn, this is the guy. I pray that no insane world events happen on this guy's watch again, but you know that it's going to. You fucking know it. There's some
Mhm.
kind of Greek comic, tragic comedy about this whole Donald Trump situation, man.
Yeah, it's like weirdly, bizarrely appropriate that he would be the president right when an AI god is birthed, and he's the one who
Truly,
has a say in how the AI god gets to like assist the people. It's
truly.
could not have been written better if there were a writer of this whole, you know, timeline that we're on. It just couldn't be any better.
Truly.
I want to pause on one little thing though, because you and I both make art. I'm mostly primarily like novelist and screenwriter, and you primarily make music. Although we do a lot of things at any given day. I think we're working on like creative shit. So Derek Thompson, who was the guy who co-wrote the book Abundance with Ezra Klein, he has a podcast called Plain English that I never dipped my toe into until this week, and I listened to one episode where he was talking about kind of like an AI doomsday scenario thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it was in the context of we spend too much time on screens, and what does that mean for like society and our culture, et cetera. Towards the end of his podcast, he was talking about how we might look back, like if AI, like AGI kicks in the way that like these people are saying it will, we might look back on the last 50 years as the golden age of human creative productivity.
I
And
know.
then we just don't do human creative productivity anymore. That was just like an era
Yeah.
that was time stamped and it's over,
Right.
because sure, we can still make music. Sure, we can still dabble with like guitars and we for fun write novels or whatever, but like it's just over, man. Like it's done. Just like poetry basically is kind of like done, and like opera is kind of done. We might be there, and we might just like live with that, because if that becomes the norm and we just like adapt to that, 100 years from now we will look back on this time as like, oh, that was cute, they all used to make their own art.
Oh, I think it's gonna be like that kind of in the blink of an eye. I think that
Yes.
I'm so hyper aware right now of the fact that like all of these legacy celebrities, they're really like the door is closing for any type of leverage of fame or notoriety, like that stuff. It's like the door is closing, and that whole kind of segment of the way that we interpret reality, honestly, is starting to fade into the distance and be replaced by all kinds of exciting and new things, man. I Yeah, absolutely.
Devon, I got to wrap it up there.
All right, brother.
Any last words or anything else that we missed before we wrap it up?
Oh, I don't know, man. I think I don't know. Honestly, I was going to say something hopeful, but God damn it, that podcast really got to me, man. I was like, probably AI is going to, and I'm like, and then it just like kind of like, I started weighing me down all of the knowledge that I was just bludgeoned with by this very intelligent young man. And I'm like, I don't know, man. I just hope everything's all right.
Yeah, you know what's so funny, Devin, you say that? This will be my last note, I guess. I was interviewed recently for a podcast about AI and like what to expect with it, based on my book, The Singularity Survival Guide. Check it out. And like to prep for this interview, I just listened to all the doomsdayers, like Eliezer Yudkowsky, and then this like AI 2027 guy. I listened to like Jeffrey Hinton, like a long list of these people over like days, the course of days, and I couldn't have any conversation with anyone at all without my mind immediately going to like, wait, but like jobs are going to be gone in like 2 years. Wait, but like AI is going to kill all humans in the next 2 years. And like, even though that's not possible, maybe it's probable, maybe it's 1% chance. Like, why are we talking about this? Oh my God. And like, it stressed me out. I genuinely felt stressed out over thinking about this too much, which makes me think that maybe we should be thinking about it because it becomes so real. Like I looked at my daughter being like, what if this thing that we're creating and like we're enjoying, like ChatGPT, like it comes to like kill all of us, like it's gonna kill my daughter. Like, what are we talking about here? How are we like okay with this?
Yeah,
So,
dude, that's
it
why.
puts you in a hell of a mindset if you really, really think about what people are saying,
Well, Peter, that's why you've got to exercise your right to gun ownership. And you don't want a smart gun.
I'm
Don't get a
sure
don't
that,
get a
yeah,
don't get a fancy little liberal smart gun, man. Get yourself something old school so you can fight the machines when they come.
I'm sure when Terminator knocks on my door, my little pea shooter is gonna save my. I'm sure. That would make a good movie scene. All right, man. I gotta bounce. Good talks. Till next time.
Later, buddy.